What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel here for another review. We're here for episode 9 entitled Those Who Remain, and that is of Spartacus, House of Ashur. This is the penultimate episode. Guys, we got one more episode left after this one, and then that's a wrap for season 1. So let me go ahead and start with the score, guys. If you're new to the channel, scoring system is 0 to 5, 0 being trash and 5 being a masterpiece. Guys, I gave this one a high 4.5. I thought this was a great episode. I feel that all the episodes have been pretty good, but I think since episode 5, each episode has topped the next. And like I said, this one is no different. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into it. Of course, we bring Enceladus home, and Achilea, she sees, he is dead, he is gone. And I will say this about the whole thing, Enceladus's funeral. I thought it was very lackluster. Like, Ashur, he probably shouldn't have been given the eulogy or the speech. I feel that should have been done by Chorus. He appeared to be a genuine friend of Enceladus. He knew him. He was a gladiator, so he could just kind of speak of the man's heart and, what he was and what he meant. I just feel that was one of the down things in the episode for me, is that right there. I didn't like that. I thought that was a bad move on their part. But we have Tarkon in the episode who is feeling conflicted. We all know where that comes from, because this whole season, him and his father have been at somewhat of odds, just not on the same page. And, it is what it is. Fathers and sons, they butt heads. And but Tarkon, the conflict he feels is he feels bad. He probably feels lots of regret that, I should have put all that bullshit to the side and listened to my father. That's the thing, once father, to me, particularly fathers, I feel that, dad is usually the one that has to keep everybody in order. And you're like, oh man, this guy. But once they're gone, you truly miss their presence, and you lament, and you figure out how much they truly meant. And I think that's what's going on here with Tarkon. He's realized his father always had his best interest. And there's one point where he wishes it had been him and not his father. And Chorus goes, your father would never wish that. Your father loves you. He always loved you. Like, just because whatever y'all's going through, that's not going to change a father's love for his son, And, I think at one point, Tarkon asks him, Chorus, how do you get through this? And he says, keep close to those who remain. And so that's kind of where they leave off. Also, there's a point where, and I predicted it in the trailer breakdown, where Achilea is wanting to, see Chorus, and he's telling no, the son, Tarkon's cleaning the body. You need to just stick to your training, honor him that way, and even later on in the episode, she tries to approach Tarkon to bury the hatchet, put the things to the side, and he puts it out there, hey, well, drop your title and let me avenge my father, because you're not really the champion. We never faced in proper contest or whatever. And so, of course, that's a little bit of foreshadowing. We do get that later on in the episode. And so, like I said, once again, I just feel the whole how they handled him was very lackluster, but they had a lot going on in this episode, so they kept it short and sweet. However, Achilea, she's been on the shelf for about 2 episodes, but she went to work in this episode. She kicked everybody's ass from pillar to post. I'm knocking out all bones. It made it look easy. Light work on all those cats. Whooped their asses. I think Chorus asked her, hey, how you doing? And she said, little pain lingers, but I'm ready. So we're gonna get that Ebony and Ivory showdown. We getting that showdown. The ladies, I can't wait to see them get busy in the arena, and we're definitely gonna get that. Now, later on the episode, all right, Consul Pompey has come to town, of course, because of the union with him and Viridia. And of course, and it was one of the funny parts in that is them old ass hags in the background talking about, man, that's too good of a man. Why is he wasting his time with somebody unexperienced, talking about Viridia? Boy, if y'all don't shut y'all old asses up, nobody want y'all. Bitch, please. Old nasty. This is y'all for the streets. Nobody wants y'all. But anyway, he meets Viridia, and it's kind of creepy because he's like, the last time I saw you, you were a child. And it's just like,
you filthy motherfucker.
But that's what the times were back then. But Gabinius and him, they go to the side. They play that little strategy game. I can't think of the name. Gabinius deep down doesn't want this union.
Don't want it. I never have.
But it's part of being a Roman. I guess you could say a true Roman is you put your needs behind what's more important, like for the Republic, or in causes greater than yourself. Self is a mere thought. Like you're not supposed to put yourself, even though a lot of what the people that get ahead, they have their own interests, like i.e. somebody like Caesar or whatever. But anyway, Gabinius, he has an idea of the man Pompey is, and when they sit down and they're playing the game, Pompey kind of just puts it on the table. It's like, so what's your daughter like? Tell me about her. What's she like? And he goes, well, your eyes have seen. He goes, I'm not talking about that. And he goes in like, oh, she's got a keen intellect. She speaks Greek. He said, once again, I think you misunderstand the question. I'm wondering how she's going to be as far as obeying a husband. And you just see the life just drain out of Gabinius because he knows he's sending his daughter up the river. Someone so full of life and light you're sending her to somebody who just is not going to care about her, is not going to respect that. It's going to be just a dull existence. I mean, she's just going to be popping out kids and that's it. Like she's going to be an afterthought. And Gabinius has an amazing relationship with his daughter, unlike like a character from a show like Game of Thrones, Tywin Lannister, who is, when he tells his daughter Cersei, she doesn't want to remarry, and he's like, he yells at her, you will marry. You're my daughter, and you will do as you're told. Whereas Gabinius doesn't want to do it, but it has to be done. And there's also another conversation going on with Kasudia and Viridia. Speaking of the reality of the situation, like it comes to a point where Viridia asks, like, what can you tell me about Pompey, the man, who he is? And she does some surface level shit. Like, he starts talking about his laurels and shit. And Viridia's like, no, you haven't really answered my question. I mean, like, what's he like? And she breaks it down like, he can be distant and cold. And she just basically says, you got to look at it this way. And I'm paraphrasing, but she's basically telling her, look, this is for protection. Because when your father leaves, basically they're vulnerable. They've already mentioned the uncle. We get him mentioned by name, Uncle Servius, which he doesn't sound like too savory of a character. And it sounds like if we get a season 2, he's definitely going to be a large part of the show because we all know what happens to Gabinius, but I'll get to that. But he's going to be a large part because you don't introduce something like that. What is it? Chekhov's gun. You don't introduce something like that and then you don't use or bring the character forth. So he'll definitely, if we get season 2, he's definitely going to be a part of the show, but also an unnamed threat, Proculus, which we don't see him in this episode, but he did make a veiled threat to Kasudia in the last episode. Like he basically, if your husband, who's to say? So we have to worry about that as well. Also, that bastard Caesar arrived in the town. Man, he looks like a frat boy. He looks like he's in a fraternity, man. But anyway, Caesar shows up. He wastes no time basically telling Ashur, you messed all this shit up and I would kill you if it wasn't for your patronage with Marcus Crassus. But this is how you can make it right. And he basically says, we want to get rid of Gabinius. And so Ashur initially is like, oh, so you're trying to remove him as a senator. No, from this life.
Fuck.
And so basically they're employing Ashur to be their cat's paw. Like they're going to keep their hands clean, but you got to do this. And to incentivize the deal, they tell him, hey, that arena you've been wanting to get built since the first episode, or well, for them, since we've seen your Syrian ass, you want it done? Make this shit happen and it will happen. And you will be in charge of it. I don't believe that shit for 1 second that Marcus Crassus told Caesar to tell him that. I mean, it could be, but I just don't trust Caesar. I think Caesar's he knows that's what Ashur wants, and he knows that would be more motivation for him. So we have a plan put in the mix. And so we also learned that Pompey wants to come over and get a look at the Nubian. He wants to see Aquileia. He's heard so much about her. So he comes over, And what I like about this also is a plan is put into action. I'll talk about the plan here in a second, but basically when Pompey comes, he wants to see her in action. And the first person who gets called up, Aquila's like, no. I go to the side. He's too easy for me. Light work. I already whooped his ass so many times. And he's like, well, who would you choose? And she's like, Tarkon, get your ass up here. So proper contest ensues. So like, they're going back and forth. It's pretty balanced at the beginning. Each draw blood on each other. Pompey starts to sense that Aquila's starting to, she's starting to get tired. She's starting to fade. And, they're talking because they're constantly talking shit. Cornelia and Caesar talking shit. Like Cornelia's like, she barely survived. And Ashur's like, yeah, against a person who was bigger and had better skill than her, so he's trying to ride for his girl. And, like I said, her and Tarkon, they're going back and forth. And then she just goes Super Saiyan on his ass and fucking takes his ass to the ground. And she's ready to put a spear through his throat. Pompey even tells her, take his life. She spares his life, basically tells him, you are alive because I allowed it. And it's a debt that you owe your father or whatever. It made it seem like if I wasn't cool with your father and your father didn't tear these sugar walls apart, your ass would be dead. So Ashur senses okay, this is where I can enact my plan. So he basically tells Pompey, hey, would you like, I come send her to you? And Pompey's like, he wants some of that brown sugar. So he's like, hey, have her bathe and send her to me. And so this is when Ashur's plan gets missed. And I love it because it's them all working together. You got Ashur, Hilaria, Messia, and Aquilia. Excuse me. So basically what he has Hilaria approach Messia. And right away, Messia is like very apprehensive. She's like, man, you trying to get that dick again, ain't you? You trying to get Ashur, you trying to get with Ashur again. She's like, no. I understand. It ain't gonna be like that no more. I'm coming to you as a friend because if this what I'm asking you to do and you don't do it, we're cooked. We are cooked. Basically, like their lives are on the line. Everybody, not just Ashur, but everybody up under this roof. And she says, I'm coming to you as a friend. And so Messia's like, all right, she gets on board. So what she does is she goes in Cornelia's room and she takes some of the opium, which, she basically gets caught. I think Caesar probably was oblivious to what she was doing, but a piece of me thinks Cornelia knows what she was doing. Like, because the way it just was too obvious for me. Like she wasn't smooth with it. And so she leaves. And of course, Caesar and her, they get it on. And so basically now Aquilia is brought in on the plan. And he basically tells her, Ashur's like, hey, look, I need you to be with Pompey. And she's like, you want me to lay with the consul? And he's like, look, now, if you do what I ask you and you don't get caught, you'll never have to, you won't have to worry about it. He won't smash. You'll be all right. And so basically what happens is they talk, and Pompey, he's intrigued by Aquilia. He wants to know like the story, like, how did you end up here? And so what we find out is that she was her family or they were royal guards protecting, I guess I would say the chieftain's daughter or something. And so that's who she accidentally killed. It was the chieftain's daughter. And so in her village, the punishment for that is death. Margin for error, death. And so her father, who couldn't stand to see her die, sold her to the Romans. And, it is what it is. So he sold her. And so, of course, they refill the drinks. She slips in the opium. And so the next part of that plan was to send a message to Gabinius to get him to come to Ashur's place. And so he shows up. And, he's like, hey, I'm getting called summons in the middle of the night. What's going on here? What's this all about? Why couldn't it wait till tomorrow? And Ashur saying, hey, look, I can't even imagine to get into the mind of a consul. I'm just doing as I'm told. And this was my favorite part of the episode. These two together, Gabinius and Ashur. I've said this since I started reviewing this show. When these two interacted, it's like, I always felt that Gabinius had a level of respect for Ashur, a level of respect that nobody else had. And it was proven in this scene. You know, the first part of it is he refers to him as Ashur. He calls him Ashur, and you could just see it made Ashur emotional. He couldn't believe it because he tells him, you honor me, and he goes, no, you honor yourself. You know, and he tells him, like I said, it was an emotional scene. Gabinius comes up to him, looks him dead in the eyes, and even Gabinius is a little emotional, and he says, if you but knew your father, he would be as proud of you as the man who stands before you. And he goes on to tell Ashur that basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the quotes, but he basically tells him, I know how you feel about my daughter, and for you doing this, having the man who she's intended to marry under your roof and doing the duty that has been set upon you. I mean, I respect you. Like, I and like truly like a Roman. He's basically, but he goes without saying, but he also says, just so you know, my daughter holds you in high esteem. Basically, she has affections for you as well, which, I mean, she must have talked to her father about it, or like I said, I guess Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder could see those two googly eyed that they really like each other. But it's kind of the world they live in. Like, even though what you're doing, Ashur, is against your heart, you're doing is what is expected of us. And so Gabinius totally respected. So there's a part where Ashur is like, you know what, why don't you just go ahead and we can wait till tomorrow. And Gabinius is like, no, I'm already here. Let's go. And so he stumbles onto the room, and my man Pompey is laid out, spread eagle on his back, but bucka nakeds, and Achilea. You could tell why he wanted that brown sugar, but she was sitting there naked. And of course, this man is tweaked out. He's like waking up. He don't know what's going on. And Gabinius just crashes out. Because, Gabinius is one of those guys, he keeps it civil, he's not going to, but he crashes out because this involves his daughter. This is his baby. And you disrespecting her sleeping with the Nubian slave. He's like, he basically tells him, man, I hope your penis gets a disease and rots the fuck off. Like, and he's just going off on him. And it started to turn into, hey, Gabinius, why don't you just go, man? Hey, bro, you said what you said. Come on, man. Let's go. And then this motherfucker, Pompey, he finally put some clothes on, and he coming up talking about, you injured me. And so they start going back and forth. He's like, I don't even remember sleeping with the Nubian. I'll send it for you. And so once again, Gabinius just goes off, and I can't remember, but he gave him one last insult, and he upped the blade on him, sliced him open like a stuffed pig. And Gabinius is bleeding out on the ground. Of course, Caesar's like, hey, Pompey, you got to go. He's like, oh, yo, I didn't mean to. He's like, it don't matter with a tent. You need to get the hell out of here. So they rush him. They speared him the hell out of there. And then as Gabinius is bleeding out, he's a smart man. He starts to put two and two together, and he tells him, she will figure it out. Viridia will figure it out. And Ashur, he can't take it. Like, basically, he puts his blood on his face. It's on his hand. Like, my blood is on you. And she will find out about it. And so Ashur covers his mouth until he expires. And Ashur's emotional. Ashur's crying about it because he didn't want to do this. As a man who he respected and cared about. I mean, in another world, Ashur would have been his son-in-law, kind of thing, and so he's hurt by that. And that's so true. Because, I mean, Viridia is going to figure it out, because if everything goes as expected, the arena's going to come up. Ashur's going to be in charge of it. They're going to know Ashur was the one pressing for the arena. All of a sudden, your father disappears, and Pompey doesn't want to marry you. So she's going to put it together. And I think what's going to come of that? I mean, is that going to harden Ashur's heart? Because, I mean, she was his soft spot. And I think something will happen to her, or just the fact she won't want anything to do with him. It's going to harden his heart. He's going to be heartless. He's going to be, he's going to be a heartless SOB. But amazing episode, guys. Amazing episode. I'm so mad because we only got one more episode. I'm just hoping we get that green light. I've been checking to see any word on a renewal, because look, man, I plan on doing, like, after the final episode, like a whole just discussion about the season as a whole and just kind of some of the things people have been saying as far as like it sucks and why are you reviewing this show, this or that and the other. I've seen some of you guys going a little back and forth in the comments with some people that have had some opinions. My thing is this: you can have the opinions on it. You know, it's cool. It's cool. Not everything isn't for everybody. It's cool. I'm not going to block anybody or anything like that, as long as you keep it civil. You know, no need for name calling or going at anybody like that. But, you know, if you have a difference of opinion, you could definitely share. And it's, yeah, why not? Why not? You know, I just think that too many times online, at least what I've seen in this sector where people review channels, it's black or white. And I don't mean that in the racial, like, it either has to be super good or super horrible. Like there's certain things I feel that it may not be necessarily the worst thing I've seen. It's not the best thing, but it was entertaining. And what's wrong with that? You know, so I'll talk more about that after the finale. I figured I'd do a whole, I guess you could maybe a referendum, they would call that or whatever. But guys, like I always say, oh, one more thing. Guys, it looks like we're not going to reach the goal that I set, hitting that 1,000, 1K by the end of the month. That's okay. That's okay. We're closing in on it. We're closing in on very close. You know, I was hoping to get it by the end of the month, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm still enjoying what we're doing here, and we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll definitely get there. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get on here. I kind of went over a few minutes longer than what I wanted to, but guys, like I always say, if it's for 1 minute, 5 minutes of the whole damn video, I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to view my videos. Of course, if there's something I missed, please get in the comments like you guys always do. I love it. Let's get the discussion going. And with that being said, everybody, like and subscribe. And guys, I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.